Good evening. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public, but are not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during citizens' participation section of the meeting. The board will not tolerate public outbursts or disruptions, nor will it tolerate comments made outside of the citizens' participation portion of the meeting. Public comment is welcome, and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board, committee, or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be made available by contacting the business office. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and any other devices. Tim and Tim are absent this evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jason.
Good evening. We're fortunate this evening during communications portion of the meeting to have some very talented folks join us tonight and share a little bit about what they do with their student group at the high school. So if they'd like to come forward, representatives from FFA.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michaela Keller, and I'm here today with Casey Zirk. We are representing the Battlefield FFA chapter as the Vice President and President. We are here tonight with our advisors, Ms. Kennedy and Ms. Scott, and we would like to take a few minutes to share with you the opportunities and success of our FFA organization. We have created and provided each of you with a short informational guide to give you an overview of our student-led organization. The purpose of our organization, FFA, is to provide opportunities for agricultural education students to develop their premier leadership, personal growth, and career success. To accomplish this purpose, FFA members have had many opportunities to engage and attend leadership conferences. Recently, we attended the State Legislative Leadership Conference, where we spent time learning about Robert's laws and parliamentary procedure and learning how to pass and veto bills. Additionally, our FFA members are able to grow personally, build and develop leadership skills as well as career skills through our career development events and or leadership development events. These events are competitive events in which FFA members can compete or in a contest or of their interest. So one of our major LDEs we compete with is public speaking. Our freshmen can compete in creed speaking, which is where they memorize the FFA creed and then present it to a panel of judges. And then there's also senior and junior prepared, which you write a speech and then present it and then have questions asked based on that. We had our county area, and some of us moved on to regionals. We will be doing that at the end of the month. And then some of our CDEs coming up is Spring Ag Skills on April 20th, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have small gas engine, poultry, food science, wildlife, animal skills, which is for vet skills, which is for animals, large animals. And then, is there one more? I got them all. And then we also strive to serve others through our organization. National FFA Week was March.
Back in February.
Mm-hmm. February 21st. For that whole week, we sold T-shirts to help raise money for Heifer International, which is an organization that will raise money to donate an animal to a community or family in a growing and developing country. Because our theme this year was to focus more on food insecurity over in other countries, we were actually able to donate 2 heifers, $500 each, when we only were striving for 1, which was a big success. We were all very excited about that one. And then for myself, as a personal growth, I have been able to become more confident and outgoing in my public speaking skills, as I am here in front of all of you today. For me, I have also been able to work on my public speaking skills and being able to comfortably talk in front of a large group of people, but FFA has also taught me how to work together with others and realize that an idea is not a good one until everyone has had their main opinions in it and their own critiques, because we can bring such many different things to the table. Now, we would like to thank each of you for supporting and providing us in many opportunities through our agricultural education courses and our organization. Do you have any questions for our organization?
Want to introduce your advisors also?
Yes.
Okay.
So these are our two advisors. We have Ms. Scott and Ms. Kennedy.
So how many active members does Gettysburg, I'm sorry if you said that already, how many active members do we have in the Battlefield FFA?
So we have about 50 active and 250 enrolled.
So we have about 50 active members that are attending all these events and about 250 enrolled into the program. So if they are signed up for an ag course, they're automatically put into the program, but it's up to them, and we encourage them to get truly involved because that's where they can glean the real information and become successful.
Well, part of your public speaking skills for both of you was a success.
Thank
Because you
you.
did a really
Thank you.
fantastic job. And I'm familiar just from my family, my daughter, being involved in the program. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Dave, citizens' participation this evening. There is nobody signed up. It brings us to our routine approvals, 5.1 through 5.5. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question on the motion on the floor. Hearing no question. Roll call. Amy Beth?
Yes?
Jeremy?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
And I vote yes. As you'll see under item 6, items for board action, one of the rare occasions, we do not have anything this evening, which brings us to our informational items. The first one, 7.1, the 2023-2024 budget information, and I'm assuming, Belinda, you'll be handling that. Thank you.
Good evening. So we are kicking off our one of many budgetary sessions for information for the 23-24 school year. Mrs. Leathery, thank you. So one of the first slides is just a reminder to the board that we do have a board budget fiscal resolution in place that we adopted last year. The main goal of that resolution is just to bring our fund balance to fall, maintaining it with our policy between 6 to 8%, and that our goal overall to reach by 2026-27 is that our revenues will equal our expenditures without the utilization of fund balance. What we talk a lot about during budget time is our unreserved fund balance, because the measurement is within our policy. Again, it's 6 to 8% that it's allowable. And we've had declining fund balance since 16-17. With the close of our audit period, we had utilized about 1.6 million of additional unreserved fund balance, so that our balance remains about a little over $5 million of unreserved. So this is a budget overview. We can see in these slides we have the actual 21-22 to the budget 22-23, and then the proposed budget of 23-24, which is a work in progress. You can see our locals overall are increasing 2.69% over the budget of 22-23, and of course our expenditures are 5.66% over the prior year as well. You can see one of the things that we did add is we like to point out the fact that while the CPI inflation index is currently 6.5% and higher, and it has been higher in the 22-23 school year, our budget is, of course, remaining at, preliminary expenditures, that is, at 5.66%. So we're keeping within the inflationary index of increasing our budget. I also like to point out that this snapshot as it is right now, at this time the previous year, our budget preliminary came in at 7.2 million of revenue minus expenditures that we need to search of. So, of course, like the year before, we have work to do. We have a review of many accounts as well as obtain additional information year to date in order to bring back more and updated information to the board. But, we're feeling pretty good at the rate that we are. At this point, we are including approximately half of Governor Shapiro's new budgetary numbers. It's anticipated that we will receive an increase, but to what that increase looks like is very uncertain. So we felt as if in the budget planning stages, we were to look at a half of the increase that's being proposed by his new budget to realize that something will be coming. What it looks like is a little unknown yet. But we did increase other areas of the budget in terms of local real estate taxes, EIT, and for state subsidy, it was for the basic education subsidy as well as the special education subsidy. We've talked a lot about over the years about the charter school tuition as one of those items that are just as not necessarily within our control, 100% within our control. So this is just giving the history since 1718 of where our charter expenses, cyber charter, has fallen. So you have approximately 5 years of actuals with 2 years of budget in the works. As we spoke before, one of the previous board meetings about variables, here is a little bit more of an update to those. Our variable, our largest variable this year, I would say, that has risen to the top is the insurance, medical, and our HSA. We are experiencing next year, and which was discussed before, a 12% increase in our premiums. We are self-funded, we pay by claims, and so therefore we had some very expensive claims within the past year, and when our rating occurs, we are rated on those claims in of itself. Other areas of the budget is increasing. I'm not going to go through the numbers in detail, but we've had some slight increases in our utilities. Transportation is the secondary line, the third line there, that is the largest increase as well. This comes from the index, our new contract, as well as just the rate increases from that contract, and the fuel. The diesel fuel to fill and pay our transportation contract vendors has increased greatly. So we are seeing the increase in the cost associated with the services that we do pay for. Again, the increase in the charter school and the ACTI membership increase is listed on the line there as well. While ACTI membership is not increasing greatly over the previous year, we currently are slated for the ACTI's budget about approximately $387,651 contribution from Gettysburg, which is a $13,276 increase over the previous year. Our general supplies, tech, hardware, and software supplies are also increasing. This is mostly due to some of the software that we need to bring on as for security measures in compliance with our cyber insurance liability. We had to put several things in place in order to remain a fairly good, reasonable insurance for cyber coverage. And so therefore, a lot of additional items need to take place in terms of instituting software as well as management of the software. And of course, as always, no surprise, our special education costs continue to rise. This is a combination of IU services as well as additional services that are, where we're sending our student to receive the services that they need. Approximately, these of itself is $3 million. Salaries, which is not on there, is increasing. However, The salaries this year, interesting enough, with the change of ACTI, even though we have the salaries increasing 2.925% overall, with the change in ACTI's level of services where they will be taking on their staff, we did not see a significant increase in salaries, even though we were planning on contractual salaries of being 2.925%, as well as we are in this budget planning phase to increase the entry wage for our classified staff. Currently, it's at $12.65, and we'd like to take it to $13.75. So the salaries in of itself did not necessarily equate to variable, simply because it's covering contract language, and significant changes happened because of ACTI, so it didn't necessarily make the board as one of those large variables. Next steps, quick, short, and sweet. We will continue to analyze our 22-23 budget. We will be doing this, and we will also be preparing a new report for the board for the next board meeting to show the budget to actual, so you can get a better snapshot of current where we're at. So we will continue to monitor. We plan to, share some additional information April 3rd, which is this evening, of course, April 17th, May 1st, 15th, June 5th, and 19th. While these are preliminary dates in mind, and we'd like to try to recommend an early adoption, we likely may need to keep June 19th open as the final adoption date rather than the June 5th. But this is just a preliminary start, and we'll keep this updated as we move along as well in our presentations of information. And that's all I have to share for you this evening. We will continue to look at many of the areas. We will also be looking at some of our assigned fund balances and our unassigned fund balance to help balance that budget and shorten that gap that's needed. Any questions?
.2 Adams County Technical Institute, the 2023-24 operating budget.
So each of the member districts approve the budget at their own individual board meetings. So it's on our board agenda tonight for information. It'll be moved to action the second meeting of April. The most significant changes to programming, they continue moving, obviously, to a single entity, which has been an ongoing process. So obviously part of that that we'll see here shortly at either the next board meeting or the board meeting that follows is there'll be a board action to transfer employees between Gettysburg and ACTI, the folks that work in those programs. So we'll put that MOU on the agenda whenever it's ready to go. It's currently in its final reviews. So some of the shifts that Belinda talked about are simply shifting employee costs from us receiving money from other member districts to us simply paying our portion of those folks to ACTI. So it's been a significant. I mean, this has all happened in less than 2 years, really. Kind of them getting their own individual AUN number, it's called, at the state, making a single entity. So they have a lot of folks there doing dual roles, obviously, because they're not at a point yet where they can duplicate all the services that the larger districts can duplicate. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank especially the, not just the teachers there, but the staff that are working in their offices that are becoming really good at personnel and business when they were hired to be, a support role. So continues to move forward. Mr. Davis and I attend those meetings monthly on behalf of the board. And once that transition happens, the next significant thing that we'll share with the board we're waiting on the results of the feasibility study in terms of growing programs, expanding facilities, those kinds of things. So that's where we are right now. So this will be back for action next meeting.
Does the board have any questions? Hearing none, board committee reports. Amy Beth, Mike.
Yes, Mr. President. The policy meeting, or the policy committee will convene Tuesday, April 11th at 4 p.m. here in the administration building. And as mentioned last meeting, the agenda should include some employee policies in 903.
Jeremy? Jason stole the thunder.
Mr. President, is it okay to ask a question of Belinda? It took me a while to digest some of that information.
Absolutely.
Belinda, I've been involved legislatively with and co-chaired a statewide committee on charter schools. For the size district that we are, to be paying $4.5 million that's going out to charter schools totally. Is it possible for us administratively to get a breakdown for the board of K through 12? Where are the numbers falling? And if there's any, I know we've worked to some degree to try to get kids to return. And I know during COVID, it was a big windfall for cyber charters and the virtual learning and things like that. But $4.5 million for a school our size seems really excessive. There's over 460 schools that have a resolution to ask our friends in Harrisburg to consider some reforms. I actually think, with the governor's help, there's some movement in that area. Unfortunately, because many of our legislators get gifts and campaign donations from these cyber charters, and they're able to advertise about how it's a free education. It's not a free education. It's coming from their local school districts like Gettysburg and everybody else. But for our size, it just seems 4.5 is excessive. And I think I don't know if I speak for everybody when I say it would be nice to have a little information regarding the breakdown of where the kids are, and if there's any theories from anybody on the administrative team, the principals, whatever, of what is the rationale, why are people choosing that option? And maybe somehow, some way along the way, we as a district can develop some strategies to stop the bleeding there, because it's pulling resources away from a lot of other ways that could be used, and also it will possibly force us to increase millage on our community, our taxpayers, unnecessarily, in my opinion. Thank you.
Program reports.
Dr. Matzner, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to give a quick reminder that we do have a complete teacher set of our new K through 8 core reading program called Amplify here in the building. If anybody would like to come and preview that, we're hoping to move that to the board agenda for approval at the next board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That brings us to,
Let me grab a couple. No problem.
go ahead, Jason.
Just a reminder, April 7th and 10th, holiday. Everybody's off. Approximately 7 weeks of instruction left this school year with, I'm sure from my teaching days, it's 7 weeks, and everybody knows there's 9 weeks of stuff to put in to that 7 weeks. So everybody will work hard to do that. A couple other things. We continue to update the budget website, so the information that Belinda shared this evening will be there tomorrow morning on the district website under the 23-24 budget, and the achievement report that was reviewed at the last board meeting is also currently on our district website. If anybody wants to take a closer look at that, since it's germane to why we're all here, and. Outside of that, I can probably just answer one of your questions, Al. I watched that stuff pretty closely, given my role and given my previous life where I came from, where we were spending a significant amount of money. I think that if you look at the data, usually it's heavier elementary, kind of K6. And part of that's just due to the fact that our brick and mortars only go certain grade levels, so you're going to see higher numbers of students at those grade levels. I think what holds true for most districts, so I don't mind. I'll say it's an opinion, just in case someone tries to challenge it. But in my humble opinion, where you attract students is when they start kindergarten. 'Cause basically, when students enroll in K, they'll become comfortable with whatever type of schooling that they're in, and will stay there then through their elementary grades and not make a transition. So a couple of years back, the district kind of enhanced our website. It's there's a site on our website. It's called For New Families, and that was all put in place, virtual tours, those types of things, to just to make sure that our families were making informed decisions when they were making choices. They absolutely have the ability to make that choice for their young folks, and but we want to make sure that they know what we're about when they're making the choice. But I really think it's right at the beginning, in my opinion, in terms of where those choices come, and then other folks might jump into cyber for a variety of reasons, and if you pull 10 people, you might get 10 different answers in terms of what that might be. Sometimes there's a health issue where they need to be online, but we also started our own GASD cyber program to allow students to have the cyber experience and still participate in district functions like athletics and those kinds of things, so that they were still students. So I think it's something we have to keep track of, but I would want to avoid expenditures chasing charter money, so that it doesn't get exacerbated by spending money to pull back no one, because then you've basically increased the amount of money that you're losing to the cyber. And I only say that based on my previous district. I mean, we did everything like duplicate programs to build facilities and create like programs. And then what we found is we just pulled more students out of our regular ed buildings into those new programs, and basically just exacerbated the impact on the district budget. So the answer to many of your questions is yes. It's a significant amount of money. We watch it. We even at times make phone calls to invite folks to come in and get a tour of the building, to see if we might be a good fit for them. So we think about it quite a bit. Appreciate you asking the question.
Yeah, and I appreciate everything that you're saying. And I think a lot of districts, that's relative to a lot of districts. It just seems in a district of about 3,000 kids where we are, 4.5 is excessive in comparison. And I thought maybe by digging a little deeper into it, we might learn something from it. But I appreciate the efforts that everybody's making, and especially those personal contacts to try to get our kids back into a really good education, because frankly, I think full virtual is substandard to the face-to-face or hybrid delivery, and I've always believed that. And I'm concerned about a generation of kids that are coming out there without the skill sets that they need. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that budgetary-wise, Belinda can correct me if I misspeak here. The other thing to consider is the fact that when you look at, like, say, cyber costs from this current year to, say, 8 years ago, the other thing you have to remember is that it might be less kids now than it was 8 years ago, but as our per pupil expenditure increases, that's the amount that we have to send to the charter. So even though they don't offer the scope of things that we offer, we're sending them the money based on per pupil expenditure. So the dollars that have increased over the past 4 or 5 years, some of that could be number of students, but a lot of times it's just that our per pupil expenditure is going up, so the amount that we're paying per kid is going up as well. So I think that's...
Our next board meeting will be April 17th, 2023. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
We stand adjourned.
Second. Do we need a second for that?